Hi everyone, I'm Darren Devitt, and today I'm going to walk you through installing Microsoft's open source FHIR server on your PC or Mac. It should take no more than a couple of minutes. After that, I'm going to show you how to run in some synthetic patient data and then run some queries on that data using Postman. Start to finish, this will take about 5 minutes. I'll provide a link to a web page where you can copy and paste all the commands I run here. If it's on LinkedIn, look inside the post. If it's Loom, look for a comment. So let's get started. We're going to run the FHIR server and its underlying database inside a Docker container. To do this, the first step is to install Docker Desktop. It's free and you can download a version for Windows or Mac from the Docker website, as you can see on the screen. So here's my version of Docker that I installed earlier, showing an empty list of containers. So to add and run the FHIR server, we have to run 4 commands in PowerShell on Windows or in a terminal on your Mac. Now I'll run through these commands quickly, but like I said earlier, you can copy and paste each of these from the web page I linked to. So command number 1 will be to pull the Docker image from the Microsoft website. This is the R4 image. There's an R5 one you can use as well. Command number 2 will be to create the FHIR network. That's created. Command number 3 will be to run SQL Server. And you can see there's a password there for SQL Server. You can use the one I've created or create your own. It may take longer to run on your machine than on mine because I already had SQL Server installed. But it is quite a large download, a couple of 100 megs, so maybe it'll take a minute or two to download. And the 4th command is to run the FHIR API itself. And again, the SQL Server password is in there as well, so make sure it matches up with the one you created earlier. So just run that. And again, this didn't take long for me to run. So now let's look at what we have running in Docker. So we'll close this down. And there we have FHIR SQL, SQL Server is running. And here we have the FHIR server as well running. The next step is to see if we can connect to the server, which should be sitting on localhost 8080. We're going to use Vanya for this. This is a desktop app I created that lets you quickly connect to a FHIR server and view the data inside. So if we click on the Add New Server button, let's just call it localhost and put in the URL, which is localhost 8080. No request headers, no authentication required, just save that. And there it is. If we click on Connect, it should make an attempt to connect to the server. And it's connected, so now we want to click on Patient and see if there are any patients in there. There shouldn't be, it should be an empty server. And it is, no patient found. Now we know the server is up and running and can be connected to, so the next step is to add in some data. For that, we're going to use some test data created by Cynthia. So I'll provide a link on the website for you to download that data. So let's open up one of those data files and have a look. We'll take Emmanuel Purdy here. So this is a bundle, a FHIR bundle. And it contains 17,000 lines of JSON, so there's a single patient record in there and a whole host of other resources such as conditions and observations, procedures, medications, medication requests. So we copy all of this, and now we want to go to Postman, and we want to create a new request to connect to our local server, our Microsoft FHIR server. And this would be a post request because we're posting data. And the address is the one we created earlier and looked at earlier, localhost 8080. Just put in the slashes. No authorization, no headers. The body is going to be raw JSON. And we'll paste in our 17,000 lines here. And there it all is. So we're going to run that in. Shouldn't take too long, a second or two I think. And there we go. Took a little longer than expected. So let's go back to Vanya now and see if we can see the data. So we refresh the patient list and we should see one patient. Yeah, there he is, Emmanuel Purdy, and there's the JSON that corresponds to the patient record. If we look at some of the other resources, we should see more resources now. So he's had 6 procedures. Number of claims, 24 claims. I'm guessing a number of encounters. Let's have a look. Lots of encounters there, yeah, for the same patient. And there's the JSON for each one. And I'm sure there's some observations as well, probably quite a lot. Yeah, 93 observations, blood pressure, body mass index, body height, blood pressure again, and so on. So quite a lot of data in there for that single patient. So normally you would run in FHIR bundles for a number of patients, build up your FHIR server, so there's a lot of data in there that you can query on and test on. So that's simply a case of running more and more of these bundles in until you build up some content. So the next step would be to go back to Postman and see if we can run some GET requests in Postman and see the data again. So the FHIR server is where it is, and we'll just do a lookup on some patients now. So there we have a bundle of patients, which should contain one patient entry. And there it is, just the one. And you can run any query you want on that as well. We could look for observations. Yeah, there's the observations, quite a few. We could check adding summary equals count just to see how many there are. And we have 93, which corresponds, I think, to what we saw in Vanya a minute ago. 93, there it is. So you can run any query you want now on your FHIR server. The source code for the open source FHIR server for Microsoft is the very same as their Azure instance, so it can do anything the Azure server can do, so it's a fully fledged FHIR server. So that's how easy it is and how quick it is to install Microsoft's open source FHIR server inside a Docker container. The installation, 2 to 3 minutes, load in a small bit of data, another minute, and then you can start querying on that data straight away. So if you want to learn how to use FHIR, this is a very good way of doing it. You can load a lot of data into your local FHIR server. It doesn't have any impact on the rest of your organization, other developers working on something else. It's all local, you won't interfere with anyone. You can use it as a test bed to learn about FHIR, run whatever queries you want. You can use it to test the code you're running, load in your own data, see how that looks. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for listening.